Welcome to Merschman Seed's Cup of Joe. On this episode, we chat about the approval of Victrato Seed Treatment, a new product from Syngenta targeting nematodes, sudden death syndrome, and red crown rot. Lynn has a market update looking into 2026. Dylan applied Anhydrous this week. Hear his take on how that went and the conditions he worked with. And stick around for the corny jokes.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Merschman Seed's Cup of Joe. Today we have our regulars. We have Ben, Dylan, and Lynn. And Ben's going to announce something, a brand new product that just recently received label that is a seed treatment.
Yeah, so Greensboro, North Carolina, November 10th. Syngenta announced today on the 10th that the Syngenta Seed Care Innovation finally got U.S. approval for Victrato Seed Treatment. So if you remember an episode going back to when soybeans were starting to defoliate, we showed some pictures of this Victrato product. It's a soybean seed treatment that we went into a red crown rot plot east of St. Louis where there's a lot of red crown rot pressure, and we were seeing some really, really nice differences. So it's pretty exciting to see that this product finally made registration. It had to jump through a few hurdles that were very strange in the regulatory process because it made it through the it made it through the Endangered Species Act without any red flags that were popped up on them, and they didn't know how to handle that because they've never had a product that made it through the Endangered Species Act so cleanly. So it's been a long time waiting. We've been looking at this product for probably 3 years now.
Yeah, I'd say so. We've been looking at it for a long time. You know, if you're not sure exactly what Victrato is, I could call it Sultro 2, and then you might be able to relate to it. So in other words, it's an improved Sultro, basically targeting nematodes, sudden death syndrome, and red crown rot. And if you're not familiar with red crown rot, right now, primarily, like you said, Ben, it's in Illinois. We haven't seen it in Iowa, hasn't been identified in Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Missouri. Well, maybe a little bit in Missouri.
A little bit in Missouri. I think in northeast Missouri, there's some, Syngenta had found some incidents of that.
So it looks very much like sudden death syndrome, but the difference is it holds its leaves. In other words, the leaves have the same visual as sudden death syndrome, but the leaves don't fall off. Sudden death syndrome, they fall off. The petioles are still there, but in this particular disease, the leaves stay on, and it literally destroys the roots. I mean,
we were talking to an agronomist over in East Central Illinois this past week, and we were talking about red crown rot because it was the first year that they had seen it, and his comment, or one of his observations that he saw, is it takes sudden death, even though sudden death will show up in middle to end of August, call it. It takes a while for that disease to kill the plant. He thought with red crown rot, there was rapid onset death of these plants, and where the red crown rot, which was in patches in fields, typically around the end rows, the more compacted areas, the lower lying areas of the fields, he said the yield almost went to zero in those spots because of how fast, the timing of when the disease kicked in and how fast that disease defoliated the soybean plants. So it's devastating for the guys that have it, but we could see two of the real differences when we were out looking in the plots in east of St. Louis.
Well, and with the trends now, you can look at a lot of podcasts, and there's a lot of data been coming out that the sweet spot for soybeans now is mid-April to plant, April 15th, around that time. And, a lot of the podcast people are saying, get your fertilizer on, get your tillage done, get your planter ready, and when April 15th comes, start planting soybeans because it is 3 bushels per week. Mm-hmm. In other words, the yield reduction, in other words, your maximum yield potential is mid-April, and then it drops 3 bushels per week. So if you don't plant until the middle of May, you might have left 10 bushels per acre. Well, that's all good except for one thing. When you plant that early, you need protection from sudden death syndrome. And a product like Sultro, which a lot of farmers have been using, is showing up to be a 5 bushel advantage when you do use it. And Victrato is the next improvement, the next product improvement. And you pick up red crown rot, a better control, better activity, I should say. There's really no product out there that gives complete control of either sudden death or red crown rot. But so those are the decisions that you're going to be making right now is, okay, do I want to plant early? Do I want to take advantage of that extra yield potential based on the last several years of data? If you are, you've got to plan for either Sultro or Victrato.
So I am on the Syngenta website right now for giving us data about their Victrato product, and they see a 91% positive yield increase with Victrato compared to the SDS rate of Alivo, and that yield difference is about 4.8 bushel per acre over that SDS SCN product, and they see about an 87% positive yield increase against the regular Sultro rate. So, and that's about a 2.8 bushel advantage over their Sultro. That is in the sudden death pressure. Talking just a little bit about the SCN, statistically significant yield increase under SCN. We see a 2.6 bushel yield advantage to the Sultro over Cruiser Max Vibrance. That is right in line with Alivo under your SCN pressure, and then you pick up another 2.2 bushel an acre above and beyond the Sultro. So compared to the untreated check onto the SCN, according to the Syngenta data here, you're looking at a 4.8 bushel advantage over no sudden death or SCN protection. So
yeah, and there's a lot of belief that both red crown rot and sudden death syndrome and nematodes are all linked together in some way. In other words, if you manage your nematodes, you'll lessen the sudden death syndrome problem out there and potentially red crown rot. So that's why there's a lot of excitement in these products. A Peking may be a good option too, to throw that in there on top of it as a source of resistance if you know you have really high levels of SCN. And the problem that farmers have when they look for SCN, they go out and soil test, which right now is the time to do it, on your soybean fields to see what your levels are. The problem you run into is you got hot spots. And when you have those hot spots, they get watered down when you take the whole field and average it out. So you may have some spots extremely high, and that's where you're going to start seeing these problems. So you got to manage those hot spots. And normally where are the hot spots is where soil runs together. So your lower spots in the field and also lighter soils are more prone to to nematodes, because when you have all that damage going on with the roots, and it's going to affect the lighter soils first. The darker, heavier soils that hold more moisture can hang on longer. So we're pretty excited about this new product, and I know Syngenta's taken 4 years to get it through registration, and normally should take 2. So they're pretty excited too, and you're going to hear a lot of noise about Victrato.
Yep, definitely something that we're going to be taking a close look at and seeing if it makes sense in our system. But wanted to give you guys the update on that one for sure. Lynn, you wanted to talk about markets a little bit, right?
From a very high level, obviously we don't. We're filming this before a certain announcement is going to be made, so whatever we say right now is going to be out the window, I guarantee it. But I think one thing that I noticed in talking with a few guys, there was a little bit of pressure before harvest. The guys having a little bit of reluctancy on figuring out what their crop rotation was going to be. Some guys were talking about going corn on some acres because it looked like the corn economics was a little bit more favorable. But now, I think I looked out for next summer. There's 1136 on the board, prices out there. So I think that is very makes it much more attractive to have that conversation about planting soybeans. And someone that I know pretty well has always had the thought, though, that you always plant the rotation, because the things that are happening right now, there's always something that can happen in the future. So I think I'm pretty excited now about having a conversation with the guys in soybeans. There was, to be completely frank, probably some reluctancy going into staring at $9 soybeans, and that's hard to get excited about the prospect of planting that. But we've got 11.05 cash prices around here locally, so that definitely has some pep in the step in the soybean market. So that's exciting. Joe was talking about before, plant, buy your seed, go sell some $11.35 beans on the board or something to hedge that. But I'm excited about the growing soybeans for next year. The only problem is the rotation doesn't look quite as favorable. But we're going to stay the course. But I think that's the big thing is staying the course on market plans, just making rash decisions based on today's information. If you would have done that, locked in your stuff back in August, September, it looks far more attractive now to be planting soybeans versus corn overall. But prices still have a lot of pressure. 11 o'clock will dictate some of that. China coming back to the table has definitely helped for sure. But as we know, with the political environment, there could be a change. Somebody could tweet something or get their feelings hurt, and that could all change. But I think what we're hearing, Joe and I talked about it before filming as well, is that there's some potential pressures out there that our crop this year, locally it was good, but overall the soybean crop maybe not as attractive. So we'll find out, and this could look really silly for selling yesterday, or could look really good for selling yesterday. But I think overall, though, the price of soybeans has guys far more excited on planting a soybean crop for next year. And I think that's back to that adage of just stick to the plan, stick to the rotation, not make too many rash decisions, one way or the other. It just kind of seems like the law of averages favors those who stick to the plan.
No, we've seen a great market response. Now, keep in mind, we're filming this about 9 o'clock on Friday, so we don't know what the report's going to say at 11. I told the guys, I said, it's either going to be hum-ho, or if they missed it by a mile, we could either go up a bunch or go down a bunch. So that's kind of the way the markets work. But the market's building in that they think there's a little bit less yield out there for corn and soybeans. So we'll see what happens. That's why the run up, and then also, demand side's what you got to watch. Watch China, watch China, watch China. I mean, we need them back to buying. But don't forget, Shad Hart always said when China steps out, we end up picking up Vietnam, and we pick up a whole bunch of other countries, and then that business tends to stay. And then if China comes in, then all of a sudden we got strong demand, and we could see some, if Trump won, 101, we saw kind of the same thing. We saw kind of hum-ho markets, and all of a sudden they got really, really good, and that's because we established a lot of new business. So it's got, fasten your seatbelt. That's all I can say.
I can't believe you let the cat out of the bag that we don't film this Saturday morning at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Well, we used to, Ben,
Yeah.
but we kind of...
This week we took a hiatus. No, I think in wheat. I mean, the guys that got wheat planted, there's a 6 on the board for next year on wheat. I mean, that looks extremely attractive to start out with that. I know some basis in some places kind of erode that a little bit, but overall, putting the farmer hat on, I'm pretty excited for next year from that standpoint of having the opportunity to sell some crops at some pretty good numbers. And I know from our perspective, when we were planning prices for seed, we didn't even think about an $11 price against the price of seed. So that's going to be a really good opportunity here for some added value on the soybean side. So we were kicking around looking at the board. Was it 10.50? Yeah. So we're on certain aspect. I think was it July 26 is 11.74 when I looked before we walked in. So we're talking $1.10, $1.20 from back when we were talking price discovery, I guess, for looking at the cost of goods. So that's pretty incredible on that side in that short amount of time. And not trying to get political, but Trump kind of said, stay the course, we'll get it all figured out, and we're kind of trending in that direction.
Yeah, and don't forget, they're still talking a subsidy for soybeans yet, so, all of a sudden maybe we're looking at not $11 beans, but with a subsidy, $12 beans.
Correct.
So there are lots of reasons to be optimistic. And then I was watching a podcast this week about marketing, and they said, do you want to be right, or do you want to make a profit? And I think sometimes we get into that that mindset that we want to be right. We want to hit the high. We want to hit the high. But really, what we really need to be looking at: can I make a profit at these levels? And do I want to lock some of that profit in? And I think that's, you want to be right, or do you want to make a profit? It's kind of like at home. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? You know, so you got to make a choice.
Yeah, I think bring up a great point there, and I think that's something Banker Lynn always thinks about is, you know, as guys you're right now, run your numbers, know your break even, and if you have an opportunity to sell above your break even, don't miss that opportunity because you're trying to gain an extra 2 pennies, right, Dylan?
Nope.
How many times have I said if I'm waiting for $11 and it was $10.98 and the good Lord bless me, but yeah. You don't want to be waiting for 5 more cents when you have an opportunity to make some money right now. You don't have to sell out, but take advantage of it.
I know that you spent some time dragging some Anhydrous tanks yesterday, Dylan. What was soil conditions like? How were things sealing up?
Yeah, so I was a little leery with the way the weather looks for this weekend, but you look at the forecast, everything looks like it's going to be on the warmer side for a few days, and we're next week, you know, high of 50s and kind of chilly, so I didn't have really a problem, especially with stabilizer, but I tried to go early in the morning. There just was enough moisture coming up overnight, so we just stopped the tractor for a little bit and then got started again, and it was sealing really good on the really well on the kind of the heavier ground. Then as we moved to a different location, it got a little lighter, but it was working really well. So I was a little leery on temperature, but I think it's the right move to get it on while the conditions they're fit.
Yeah.
So the issue is dry soils.
Yeah. So I think while the top, you know, we're pulling the knife, there's plenty of moisture there, but I think you dig a deeper hole, I think you're gonna run into some dry dirt pretty quick. I mean, we worked down a few endrows of like where we inline ripped, and then we worked it again. Dust was flying pretty good, so I don't know how well it seemed to seal really well, but it was really, really dry there. So I mean, the moisture is disappearing really quick on ground that's been worked. So just another thing to keep in mind, you know, when we're doing tillage too this fall. Hopefully there's plenty of time to catch up on moisture, but just something to keep in mind too. We know it comes valuable come spring.
Correct.
So.
We say that, but you know, you look at the drought monitor that we have, and certain demographics within our sales footprint are in that D1, D2 drought. And from my perspective, Dylan, you guys could probably argue with me, but I mean, I think if you're in that takes a pretty considerable amount of water to jump out of those conditions. Yeah. So, you know, when we're talking about fall tillage, especially in those geographies, you want to be very strategic with that, because anytime that you're breaking that soil open and letting water go out, you're not going to be able to get, or moisture go out, you're not going to be able to get that back without a rain event. But I'd agree. One thing that I did see in travels and doing a little bit of scouting out in fields is it's back to, we've talked about it at harvest, but residue management on soybeans is really important if you are a guy that uses anhydrous. I've seen a little bit of issues, not so much. It's closing fine, but there's some flowability with some of that residue, and that's a trade-off. We raise really high yielding soybeans, like around here locally. We had phenomenal soybeans. We planted early, very tall beans. There's a lot of trash then to get kind of worked through when you're doing anhydrous. So make sure you're cognizant of your residue. Make sure that's flowing through. Your closing coulters or whatever system you're using is actually getting dirt back over that. I'm seeing a little bit of, it's trying to get over the little bunny, I guess I call them bunny hills, I don't know what the technical term is, but where he stopped the combine and had to do something, you know, it's not throwing dirt back over that slot, it's throwing residue over that. And Ken Frere, I know we reference him a lot, had a really good one last Saturday I listened to, talking about some of those dry conditions when you're putting on anhydrous is what they're running into, is that if that's not closed and there's no moisture, your anhydrous is going to go up, your nitrogen is going up because there's no moisture to attach to. And even though you're using a stabilizer, that stabilizer is going to stay on the bottom of that mole knife. So it's really important, especially with your dry, to make sure you're getting that covered, because anhydrous will find moisture. That's its job, is to find moisture. You just want to make sure that more than likely, if you're dry, you want it to go down, not give it a free chance to go out. And he had great points. Same with manure and anhydrous. if you're working in a field and you're smelling it, it's your cue. That's a cue.
Something's not right.
Something's not right. You should not be. Now, granted, if you have a bar that maybe takes a little bit to get cleaned out when you flip the switch or anything like that, but if you're in the middle of the field and you've been running for a while and you're smelling anhydrous, either you need to check for a leak or conditions aren't quite fit there. But yeah, like I said, locally, I think we've got just enough on the top side there to get stuff kind of sealed back over. Caveat to that, if that residue is just a little bit wet, it doesn't want to flow through that. So just be cognizant, because with these prices and the way that kind of seeing guys trend with multiple applications of N, setting up a good N source on the front side of this plant can help you potentially make some management decisions later on. So we don't want to go out in the fall and just check it off the box. We want to be very diligent and cognizant of that.
Yeah, we ran out of prepay money on anhydrous, and it went up $90 just over a week. So I mean, it's moving quick. So it's you're talking $7-8 an acre. Just price difference right there, depending on what how many pounds you're putting on. So
yeah, and hearing reports out of Brett Reese, was talking to him, area sales manager in Central Illinois, that there's some certain river terminals up and down the river that the guys pull from in their direction. They keep moving south because as they go north, they're running out of anhydrous and guys are having to travel. So something that we have a fertilizer plant in our county, and we know even we struggle to get that. So I can imagine with that demand moving, it could be an issue. And yeah, waiting for anhydrous in the spring isn't the most ideal conditions related to how some of these production plants get stuff done. So
creates a bottleneck, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's always something.
I'm glad we sell seed, not fertilizer.
Mm-hmm. Most of the time.
Yeah.
Well, if we don't have anything else, I'll give you a couple jokes here. I got a couple cowboy jokes here for you. This one here, back in the old West, a cowboy left Montana to go to Texas on Friday and came back on Friday. How did he do it? He left Montana to go to Texas on Friday and came back on Friday. How did he do it? He named his horse Friday. That's how he did it. Okay? Now, another cowboy joke here. A cowboy once told his grandson the secret to long life. Son, just sprinkle a little gunpowder on your oatmeal every morning and you'll live to a ripe old age. So the cowboy did it faithfully, and sure enough, he lived to 96 years old. When he passed, he left behind 4 children, 8 grandchildren, 15 great-grandchildren, and a 16-foot crater in the wall of the crematorium. And the last one, staying on the cowboy theme here for you, Ben, here. Why are horses so sleepy?
No idea.
They're always hitting the hay. Yep, there you go. Well, thanks for watching this week or listening via podcast, and we sincerely appreciate your business. It is time to order your seed and get what you need, because April 15th comes pretty darn fast, and we have over 800 different options when you look at our soybean options alone. So we'd appreciate an early order, and again, I always say the only reason you wait to order is because you want to pay more. So thank you again, and hope your family is safe and healthy, and we'll see you next week.